Hello guys, today we're going to be reviewing Nintendo's original black box games. Alright guys, for those of you who don't know what Nintendo's original black box games are, they're basically the games that came out and launched, or at the very least very close to launch. They had like a trademark black box that came with the game, and it would be on all their original promotional material and stuff. It's basically what the Nintendo was known for when it first came out, and included games like Kung Fu, Super Mario Brothers, golf, baseball, all that kind of stuff. So we're basically reviewing the launch games for Nintendo NES today, one at a time. We've got our tier list here, and we're going to get started now. Sorry that I'm covering up a couple games, guys, but I'll do my best to show you everything on this list today. So we're going to start with 10-Yard Fight. You see this game here. Now, this is really cool, guys. This is an American football style game, but what I really liked about 10-Yard Fight is it's all about offense. The goal of 10-Yard Fight is to get into the touchdown zone before the time runs out. And if you can't get a first down before the time runs out, it's game over. So it's all about the offense, and you can even go for a conversion after a touchdown as well for extra bonus points. It's kind of like a mini game almost. Very, very fun game. You start by taking on the high school team. Eventually you go to college, all-star, so forth and so forth. And you keep playing until you can no longer win a game. So it's one of those go back and beat the high score type of games, using in American football, which is a nice touch. I really like this game. A lot of people probably don't like this as much as I do, but I really like it. I'm going to give that one a B tier today, I think. This is a really good game. Another good game next, guys. We have Balloon Fight here. It's a little bit of a blatant rip-off of the arcade game Joust. However, I'm not offended by this as long as it's just as good, if not better. I would say in some ways, to be honest, probably not a popular opinion, the controls are a little bit tighter on Balloon Fight. Basically, you play this little man holding balloons, and you've got to fly above the enemies and pop their balloons and knock them off perches before they can regenerate their balloons. So basically, you've just got to knock them out. Alternatively, if they hit the balloons that are above you, you've got to make sure you stay above the enemies and underneath the enemies, because if they pop your balloons and you lose all your lives, it's game over. Lots of levels, bonus stages. Pretty good time. I'm not going to put it into the epic category, but it's a solid game. That's going to get a B tier as well. Next, we got baseball. Now, I don't think in Australia they released a lot of baseball games like they did in the United States. And obviously, if you're from the United States, you know a lot of very famous baseball games in the NES, which are very good. Very basic, I guess, by sports standards. I mean, I had a lot of fun playing this with my friends growing up. I don't think it's necessarily a good time now. A bit of a sluggish baseball game. Genuine challenge to be had on the higher difficulties. But definitely a case of a game that doesn't hold up too well today. Probably won't be going back to this one in a hurry. I'm going to put this one in the D tier, I think. Okay, next we got Clue Clue Land. Okay, this is a really, really cool puzzle action game. Very interesting. You play this balloon type character, and the only way to go around the screen is by swinging between these hooks. You're kind of like monkey branching almost. There's enemies that you can attack and pop, which gives it a nice action flavor. But it's a puzzle game at heart. You've got to go around these hooks uncovering gems, which will make different pictures like houses or animal faces and things like that. Even like spades, hearts. And you have to do that all before the time runs out. And you have to also do that while avoiding obstacles, like I said, enemies or black holes and all sorts of stuff. There's heaps of bonuses to collect as well, even extra lives. It's a fun game. I played this one a lot as a kid. It was a gift. Probably don't like it as much as 10-Yard Fight and Balloon Fight, but it's solid. I'm going to give it C tier, I think. Now we got Donkey Kong 3. Not really sure why this game exists. It's not that it's necessarily bad. It just doesn't really feel like a Donkey Kong game. You play this little dude who's not even Mario, I don't think. It's just this little dude. And basically the levels, this little dude shooting his little hand cannon at Donkey Kong, trying to move him up a vine while avoiding enemies and all the like. I mean, it's totally fun in parts, I guess. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Look, I'm going to put it in D tier. It's probably a little bit harsh, but I mean, it's not a game I'm going to go back to in a hurry. And speaking of Donkey Kong, now we got the classic, the original Donkey Kong. This is an arcade port of the 1981 game. A case of, like, less is more. I think this is definitely, for me at least, the best home console port. They've done, like, little Nintendo Game & Watch games based on the first level. It's just so iconic, where you jump over the barrels and you have to rescue the lady. Well, what's her name? Paulina? I don't even know what her freaking name is. But Donkey Kong's holding you squeeze, and you play Mario, who was known as Jumpman at the time. And you basically have to go through all these levels, jumping on platforms, avoiding fire, and doing some other knickknacks in order to knock off Donkey Kong off his perch and save the girl. It's a very, very good game. Not a lot of substance, but a great time killer. I'm gonna put Donkey Kong in A tier. We got Duck Hunt now. Now, Duck Hunt was a game that got bundled with the Action Pack on NES, and some cartridges came with both Duck Hunt and Mario. Light gun shooter. It loses a point automatically for that little dog that wants to laugh at you. I mean, just mocking the player like that, that's just not cool, man. But shooting ducks is really fun. Again, less is more. It's great mechanics, great fun in this game. Not a whole lot of depth. You can either do Mode A, which is single ducks, or Mode B, which is dual ducks, to really test out your skills. Look, it's a good shooter. I mean, I can't really penalize it for the time for being basic, because it was very early to mid-80s. Look, I'm going to give it B tier. It's a fun light gun shooter. And next we got Excite Bike. Okay, man. This game is cool, alright? You play this guy that's on a motocross bike, and you've got to go over these jumps and do these courses and beat them before the time runs out. Or you have to get them, rather, in a certain time so you can qualify the next race, and so on and so on. It keeps going until you're no longer skillful enough to go under the allotted time. Really fun. There's a Mode A where you basically do a time trial by yourself, or Mode B where you have to avoid other obstacle races. It was always fun knocking them down with your back tire. Very satisfying. And there's even a creator course mode, which I think is pretty freaking cool if you want to play something with your friends. A lot of depth for a game of its age. It is going to go in A tier for me. Excite Bike is definitely a black box game I think everyone should play. Next, guys, we have Nintendo's Golf. I really loved this back in the day. One of the first sports games I played on Nintendo. 18 holes of golf, all very, very challenging. Found it a lot of fun back then. I struggle to play this now, mainly for the swing timing. It's very, very difficult when you're not used to it. And also, it's a little bit of a sluggish golf game in presentation. A little bit slow paced. And no music or anything, so it can get a little bit boring. But there is a pretty decent game of golf here in between the lines, so I'm going to give it C tier. Maybe a little bit generous, but as I said, I did play it a lot as a kid, so there must be a reason for it. Now we got another light gun shooter, guys. This is Gumshoe. Basically, you have to shoot this detective guide to avoid enemies, go on platforms, collect balloons and stuff like that. Can be a fun game. A lot of the times, people complain about this being unresponsive. Gosh, look, yeah, it's not a great light gun game. There's so many better other ones out there that you can play. I'm going to give this one D tier. Next, we have Gyromite. This was one of the games that was encouraging people to get the robot, which was the robot accessory for Nintendo Entertainment System. Trying to remember this game. You basically have the robot help you open doors from, if I'm not mistaken. You collect stuff, avoid enemies. I mean, it's okay. Bit gimmicky, obviously, the fact that it came with Rob the Robot. I've played it a couple times. I haven't gone back to it again. I mean, I barely remember the game, so, I mean, we're going to give it D tier. Next, we got Hogan's Alley. Hogan's Alley is a light gun shooter that I owned. And this game is very underrated. I probably rate this as being one of the better black box opening light gun shooters for Nintendo Entertainment System. You have Mode A, which is kind of like a police alley shooting range where you have to shoot criminals and avoid shooting the innocents on their little stand. You know, those little cardboard cutouts that they have in shooting ranges and stuff. They have enemies and then they have innocents and you have to shoot between them and stuff. It's pretty cool. And then there's a mode B where you're like walking through the town basically doing the same thing. It's a nice touch because it progressively gets more difficult. And finally, there's also like a shoot the barrel mode where you can sort of shoot the barrels into these slots and get points and stuff. Lots of variety in this, pretty fun shooter. Spent a lot of time playing Hogan's Alley. Glad I got it with my Christmas money one year. That's going in B tier. Hogan's Alley is definitely a good time. Next we have Ice Climber, guys. This is an interesting platformer. You play this guy with a mallet who's still relevant today. I think these characters are in Smash Brothers, if I'm not mistaken. But you jump from platform to platform. You basically need to break an opening and then jump up. And you basically need to get from the bottom of the stage to the top of the stage, and then you'll do a bonus level. Each one gets progressively harder with more obstacles and enemies to avoid. Takes a little bit to get used to the jumping mechanics. It's going to lose a grade for the simple fact that the jumping is totally unsatisfying. It's a bit sluggish, and it feels like it's all vertical and no horizontal, if that makes sense. So I would give it a B tier, but mechanically, I have to give it a C tier, unfortunately. It's a good game. It could have been a lot better game. Now, this is a black box game I would recommend everyone own on the Nintendo Entertainment System, guys. This is Kung Fu, based off Kung Fu Master by Irem, or Irem, however you say their name in the arcade. You play a guy called Thomas, his girlfriend Sylvia has been kidnapped, and there's 5 levels in this temple or this building, and you have to go from 1 floor to the 5th floor where Mr. X is waiting. Each level has a different boss. Some might have like these sticks, some might have boomerangs. There's even a wizard in there. Incredibly challenging, incredibly addictive. You're just going to want to keep playing this over and over and over, seeing how many times you can loop those 5 levels and seeing what score you can set. Fun action game, definitely early times for the beat 'em up / action genre, but it's a very, very good one. I'm actually going to put Kung Fu in S tier. I think it definitely deserves it. It's an essential black box game. I think everyone should be putting that one in their collection. Next, we got Mac Rider. Mac Rider is a pretty ambitious game, actually. You play this motorbike rider. There's like a fighting mode and an endurance mode. Basically, you're racing. You can do modes, I think, where you can shoot enemies, or you can do sort of like a time trial-based mode. And essentially, each race is a certain distance. And if you can make it to the end without losing your lives or whatever, you will get to another course, and they vary in color and difficulty and stuff. Pretty decent 3D style racer for a game so early in its time, actually. I haven't played it for a long time. There's also a course editor as well, by the way. Very ambitious too. I'm gonna give it a C rating. Lots of great ideas in it. On delivery, it's not the most fun NES black box game to play, but definitely worth a shot. Let me know what you think of it if you try it in your travels. Next we got the original Mario Brothers, not to be confused with Super Mario Brothers. This is based on the arcade Mario Brothers, in my opinion, the best home port of the game. You play in a single screen format, which was a popular format at the time. You know, games like Bubble Bobble, Snow Brothers, Mario Brothers, you know, all those single screen platformer type games. And, yeah, things would come out of pipes like turtles, crabs, bugs, and you'd have to go under the platform that they're moving over, if that makes sense, and hit underneath them and then knock them off their perch while avoiding fireballs and progressively harder enemies as the levels go on. It's a lot of fun, pretty addictive. Probably by today's standards, the controls are a little bit too tight. I like my games to flow a little bit more than the original Mario Brothers, but I do forgive it because it is such a fun game and probably the best home port of an arcade classic. I'm gonna give it B tier, I think. I think it deserves a B tier. Maybe you guys think I'm being a little bit too generous, but no, it's fun. I definitely like Mario Brothers. Next, we got Pinball. This was one of the games I borrowed off my friend growing up. I used to play a lot of pinball. I guess an adequate pinball experience, albeit a bit of a basic one. The normal pinball sections is like a top level and a bottom level that it rotates between depending on where your ball is on the pinball table, if that makes sense. It's fun enough. I mean, I guess because it's such an old game, there's not enough interesting things to do. But you can actually get your ball into like a bonus level slot, which is a nice touch where you can do this little mini game, which is pretty cool. I kind of want to give it a C- actually, but if I'm thinking C, I'm going to put it into the C grade. It's a very generous C. It's certainly not a must-have game, but hey, it's pinball, so give it a shot. Next, we got Donkey Kong Jr. Math F. Keep your education out of my video games. Next, we have Popeye. Okay. Popeye is another platformer based on the arcade original. Single screen like Donkey Kong and Mario Brothers. You have to rescue Olive Oil. There's like 3 looping levels. What do you do? In the first level, you have to collect hearts. Olive Oil keeps throwing hearts at you. You need to collect them all while avoiding Bluto and other people throwing junk at you. And yeah, there's a ship level, and then there's some kind of high-rise level, and then another ship level. It's a good game. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it is fun to play. Popeye is a platformer game. No, I'm going to give it a C. Jeez, it seems like I'm giving a lot of these black box games a C today. Pro Wrestling. Pro Wrestling's a fun game. Probably one of the better pro wrestling games on NES, actually. It's amazing that a game from the mid-80s and an original black box wrestling game can be more fun than all those dodgy WWE/WWF games that came out on NES. A lot of interesting characters in this. The mechanics are very, very basic in this, but they are fun. You can do like your regular like kick attacks or like grapple attacks, things like that. Bounce between the ropes. The music is pretty iconic in this game too. I personally find this one a little bit difficult, but I just need to get good. I can't really complain about a game just because I'm not good at it. It's a tight wrestling game. I think when you're playing wrestling games on NES, it's between this and, that Tecmo Wrestling. Yeah, that gets a B tier. It's a good game. Now we got Slalom, guys. Slalom is a 3D skiing game where you do things like time trials and stuff, going between the flags while avoiding obstacles. It's a nice idea. I just don't really personally find this one incredibly fun to play. Yeah, I don't think it's for me. I mean, if you like skiing, you might get more out of it than me, but I'm going to give that one a D tier. Next, we got Soccer. This is cool. I used to play this one a lot growing up. I mean, look, by today's standards, it's basic. You've got, I think, 5 different difficulties. You can pick your country. And it's just a tight game of soccer for the day. I really enjoyed it. I think there's a funky little tune in there too. Also, the halftime show, the cheerleaders come out as well, which is a really, really nice touch. It's a decent game of soccer. I mean, there's plenty of better options by today's standards. But it's totally fine. We're going to give that one a C tier. Next, we got Super Mario Brothers. I really do not need to explain this one, but this is the game that started just such a massive franchise that's still going 37 years later, even today, not counting the original arcade game. Super Mario Brothers. Kill Koopas, little turtle sumbishes, knock them everywhere, jump on Goombas, jump over Bowser, find out that your princess is in another castle. This game is all sorts of awesome. If you don't know what Super Mario Brothers is, I don't know what to tell you guys. That's an immediate S tier. Now we got Donkey Kong Jr. You know what? Not a bad game. This time you play Donkey Kong Jr. and you have to rescue Donkey Kong, this time from evil Mario. Roles have been reversed and Mario's now the villain in this one. Nice touch. I wonder if Mario's been the villain since. Pretty challenging levels. I think there's like 4 looping levels. It might be 5 actually. But different levels consist of putting keys in slots, basic platforming, avoiding birds. it's a good time. Very, very challenging. Frustrates me sometimes. Probably not as classic. Look, you know, I'm going to give it a B tier. I mean, it's a very, very good game. Probably, look, subjectively, probably not massively my cup of tea. But it's good. It's very, very good. Next, we got a basic game of tennis. Again, I grew up with this. I think, again, there's 5 difficulty levels. On the higher difficulty levels, it's a pretty fun and frantic game of tennis, actually. Presentation, a little bit on the slow side, and not that much interesting apart from the basic game itself. I was going to give it a D tier because it's just so basic, primitive, and limited, but I feel like the actual game of tennis itself is pretty good. So again, I'm thinking C-, which means I do need to put it in the C tier, but it's a very, very generous C tier. Next, we got Urban Champion. This is basically a street brawler game, kind of like in the Street Fighter style. You progressively have a different opponent every round, and the goal is to knock them off their side of the stage until they fall into a manhole and lose, and then you'll progressively get a harder and harder opponent. And you got to also avoid people, I think, throwing pop plants out of their window at you and stuff, and all sorts of things. It's basically a brawler. I wouldn't go as far as to say Street Fighter style, but like a one-on-one fighting game. By today's standards, you probably wouldn't play it. Again, a little bit on the slow side, but, you know, I had an NES, not a Super Nintendo, for a long time, so I was just happy to have a fighting game. So there was good memories to be had here. Can I really recommend it for people to play now? Look, in modern day gaming, the fun factor's probably not there, to be honest. So, maybe a little bit harsh. I'm going to give Urban Champion a D rating. Volleyball. I mean, it's alright. There's a cool tune that plays while you're in the game. I don't think it's the most responsive game of volleyball ever. Presentation is really nice, but the gameplay for me isn't there. I'm going to give volleyball a D tier. Now we got Wild Gunman. Wild Gunman is a pretty famous shooter. A lot of people remember this from Back to the Future 2. Looks like a baby's toy, if you remember that scene. Lots of different modes in this. You've got mode 1, where you have a showdown with one opponent. Mode 2, which is where you have 2 opponents. And then mode C, which is kind of like a saloon style. You have to shoot everyone before they shoot you as they pop out of a door or a window or something. Pretty cool. Now, if you want to get the most out of Wild Gunman, guys, you have to basically draw your gun as what you would if you really were in a showdown. Like, if you're just holding up your gun as, at the screen before the count of fire, you're going to win every round very easily. It's basically the mechanics of this game work as a shootout. So the enjoyment you get in Wild Gunman's going to depend on your playstyle, and so you have to sort of set your own boundaries and rules. The game doesn't really do a good job of it for you. Look, it's a fun shooter. I'm not going to rate it above Hogan's Alley. Let's give it a C. Now we got the Wrecking Crew. Look, some people like this game, and there is some fun mechanics in this. You basically play this Mario lookalike construction worker, and you have to break down these walls and stuff, and go through all these platforming sections. Just not that interesting, to be honest. It doesn't really do anything for me, Wrecking Crew. I've tried to go back to it a couple times. Not for me. Now, I saved Stack Up until last, guys. This was another Rob the Robot game. Never really experienced this game, if I'm going to tell you the truth. And, you know, I did a little bit of research on it, and I didn't really understand what was going on, to be honest. It just seemed like another Rob the Robot gimmick that didn't work. I'm going to give it an F, a little bit unfair since I don't have personal experience with this one myself. But it just doesn't seem like something I would like, to be honest. And then also, I don't know if there was supposed to be ice hockey. Maybe ice hockey came out afterwards. So these are all the games I've got in the tier list. If I've forgotten one or two, I apologize, but I've pretty much got most of them here. So hopefully you guys enjoy the list. On S tier, Kung Fu, Mario Brothers. A tier, Donkey Kong, Excite Bike. They're 4 must-have black box games in my opinion. Definitely put... Now, the B tier here are definitely some considerations. You've got 10-Yard Fight, Balloon Fight, Duck Hunt, Hogan's Alley, Original Mario Brothers Pro Wrestling, and Donkey Kong Jr. Now, C tier, I would recommend getting these games if you could find them very cheap in a bargain bin only. You got Clue Clue Land, Golf, Ice Climber, Mack Rider, Pinball, Popeye, Soccer, Tennis, and Wild Gunman. In the D tier, unless you get these as a hand-me-down, I wouldn't even freaking bother. We got Baseball, Donkey Kong 3, Gumshoe, Gyromite, Slalom, Urban Champion, Volleyball, and Wrecking Crew. And F tier, I mean, throw it in the bin or wipe your bum with it in the toilet. There you go. You got Donkey Kong Math and Stack Up. So I hope you enjoyed my Nintendo NES opening black box tier games list today. I really enjoyed doing this for you, and I hope to do a lot more. Thank you for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.